Hare Krishna. As a part of Sri Krishna Janmashtami and Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja celebration at ISKCON Juhu, Mumbai, Srila Prabhupada's office, today we are very fortunate to have with us His Holiness GIriraj Swami Maharaj.
Haribo.
His Holiness GIriraj Swami Maharaj ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada made Hare Krishna land his office, and he also wanted this project to be a first class preaching center in the world. And Srila Prabhupada had given so many instructions about ISKCON Juhu, Mumbai, ISKCON Bombay. That time it was ISKCON Bombay. Srila Prabhupada wanted this project to be first class preaching center, and His Holiness GIriraj Maharaj is the source of all the information, is the treasure house, you can say treasure house of all the instructions of Srila Prabhupada about ISKCON Juhu. And today we are starting Srila Prabhupada's Sri Vyasa Puja celebration, and we have with us His Holiness GIriraj Swami Maharaj to start the celebration with the Bhagavatam class and Srila Prabhupada's pastimes with His Holiness GIriraj Swami Maharaj. So first of all, I would like to thank His Holiness GIriraj Swami Maharaj to have given us this time slot. He is very busy actually. In fact, so many devotees and projects from around the world, they all approach GIriraj Swami Maharaj. In fact, I was told that he had given one session in the morning at 5 o'clock, maybe for a different devotee. So I would like to thank on behalf of ISKCON Juhu, also on my personal behalf, His Holiness GIriraj Swami Maharaj, to have agreed to spend time with us. Also for His Holiness GIriraj Swami Maharaj, ISKCON Juhu is very close to his heart. Even though he is separated from us by distance, he is very closely connected to us by heart. This is a heart-heart connection. And thank you very much, GIriraj Swami Maharaj, for joining us today morning. And I request His Holiness GIriraj Swami Maharaj to give us Bhagavatam class and also serve us a feast of Srila Prabhupada's pastimes with him. His Holiness GIriraj Swami Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. So I will begin by singing the Mangalacharna prayers and leading a short kirtan. And then I will speak on Srimad Bhagavatam with special reference to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sabana Raghunatam Sadvaitam Savdutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Pasatya Deshatarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Pasatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajakacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajakacharya Astotra Satasri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kundagiri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Sambeta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So it is a great honor and privilege and pleasure for me to be with all of you on the auspicious occasion of the Vyasa Puja of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of ISKCON, and my beloved spiritual master. I will read one verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is appropriate for two reasons. First, it is the prayers of the demigods to Lord Krishna in the womb. And since we celebrated Krishna Janmashtami yesterday, it's in keeping with the theme of Lord Krishna's appearance. And also, it describes Srila Prabhupada and how he and Lord Krishna together are helping us to cross the ocean of nescience and go back home, back to Godhead by their grace. So we read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, Prayers by the Demigods, text 31. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Swayam Samutirya Sudustaram Dyuman Pavarnavam Bhimamabhadra Sorida Bhavat Padambo Ruhanavamatrate Nidaya Yatha Sadanugraho Bhavan Swayam Samutirya Sudustaram Dyuman Pavarnavam Bhimamabhadra Sorida Bhavat Padambo Ruhanavamatrate Nidaya Yatha Sadanugraho Bhavan. Swayam, personally. Samutirya, perfectly crossing. Sudustaram, which is very difficult to cross. Dyuman, O Lord, who appear exactly like the sun, illuminating the darkness of this world of ignorance. Bhava Arnavam, the ocean of nescience. Bhimam, which is extremely fierce. Abhadra Sorida, devotees who are incessantly friendly to the fallen souls. Bhavat Pada Amboruha, your lotus feet. Navam, the boat for crossing. Atra, in this world. Te, they, the Vaishnavas. Nidaya, leaving behind. Yatha, on to the ultimate destination, Vaikuntha. Sat Anugraha, who are always kind and merciful to the devotees. Bhavan, you. Translation. O Lord, who resemble the shining sun, you are always ready to help. I think I'm going to see if I can put this on my computer screen so I don't have to look down all the time.
Yes, Maharaj. It's okay, Maharaj. It's okay, Maharaj.
Oh, it'll just take a minute. I don't like looking down. I'd rather. It'll just take a minute. I don't like looking down. Okay. Oh boy. Okay.
Yes, Maharaj. Please, you can go ahead.
So I'll read the translation again. I'll read it.
Yes,
Oh,
Maharaj.
O Lord, who resemble the always ready to fulfill the desire of your devotee, and therefore you are known as a desire tree, Vanchakalpataru. When acharyas completely take shelter under your lotus feet in order to cross the fierce ocean of nescience, they leave behind on earth the method by which they cross. And because you are very merciful to your other devotees, you accept this method to help them. I'll read it again because it's very deep and beautiful. O Lord, who resemble the shining sun, you are always ready to fulfill the desire of your devotee, and therefore you are known as a desire tree, Vanchakalpataru. When acharyas completely take shelter under your lotus feet in order to cross the fierce ocean of nescience, they leave behind on earth the method by which they cross. And because you are very merciful to your other devotees, you accept this method to help them. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This statement reveals how the merciful acharyas and the merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead together help the serious devotee who wants to return home back to Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his teachings to Rupa Goswami, said, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavana Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. One can achieve the seed of Bhakti Lata, devotional service, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. The duty of the Guru is to find the means according to the time, the circumstances, and the candidate by which one can be induced to render devotional service, which Krishna accepts from a candidate who wants to be successful in going back home, back to Godhead. So I'll speak at intervals while reading the purport. And this verse and purport really describe Srila Prabhupada. As we know, Srila Prabhupada crossed the ocean and arrived in New York at the advanced age of 70 years. And the people, the situation, the culture were very different from India. And he had the challenge or the task to find the ways and means to engage us in devotional service in such a way that Krishna would accept our service. Of course, Srila Prabhupada followed strictly the parampara, Sadhu, Shastra, and Guru. And he translated so many books of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Ishopanishad from Sanskrit, and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita from Bengali, so that we would get authentic knowledge through parampara and guidance that would enable us to cross the fierce ocean of nescience and go back home, back to Godhead. And this verse, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavana Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bij, which is Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 19:151. It describes how basically, by the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru, and by the mercy of Guru, one gets Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada actually quoted that verse indirectly in his letter to me, in which he initiated me. And just one moment. Oh, well, anyway. Having technical problems here. It just keeps crashing. Maybe I'll try. There it is. So Srila Prabhupada indirectly quoted that verse in his initiation letter to me, which was dated July 2nd, 1969. And I'll read the letter. My dear Giriraj, please accept my blessings. I beg to acknowledge receipt of your letter dated July 2nd, 1969, sent along with your beads. I have chanted on them, and your initiated name is Giriraj. Giriraj is the name of Govardhan Hill, on which Krishna used to tend his cows. In Vrindavan, Govardhan Hill is worshipped as a representation of Krishna. Sometimes devotees take stone from Govardhan Hill and keep it at home as a representation of Krishna, and they worship in this way. So, my family name is Teton. And there's a famous mountain range in America called the Grand Tetons. And I was very proud of that name. And I mean, I can give many examples but even after I joined the movement, I learned that Alfred Ford had been living in the Teton Mountains. So, my pride in the Teton Mountains was reinforced. So I was proud of my mountain name. And when Srila Prabhupada initiated me, he gave me another mountain name, a better mountain name. And I thought, Srila Prabhupada knows everything. He even appealed to my sense of pride in my mountain name. And so here we come to his sort of indirect reference to the verse we just read in the purport, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavana Jiva. I am very glad to understand that you have relished at least some of the transcendental bliss of Krishna consciousness. It is a great fortune for you. Living entities are roaming within the universe in different species of life and in different planetary systems, enjoying or suffering the reaction of pious or impious activities. But they have no information how to get out of this entanglement of repetition of birth and death. Due to the darkness of ignorance, most living entities have no idea about the value of life. Therefore, one who understands the importance of Krishna consciousness must be a very fortunate soul. So I marked it in your person when I was in Boston. And I prayed to Krishna that this good soul may be aware of the importance of Krishna consciousness. So this is very significant in my understanding that Srila Prabhupada prayed to Krishna for me. And as we read in the verse and purport, Krishna fulfills the desire of his devotee, and because his devotee, Srila Prabhupada, prayed to Krishna for me, that I may be aware of the importance of Krishna consciousness. Krishna fulfilled Srila Prabhupada's desire. With my blessings, I am sending herewith your beads, duly chanted upon by me. You should avoid the 10 offenses as far as possible and follow the 4 regulative principles, as Satsvarupa will instruct you. Satsvarupa was the temple president in Boston when I joined. I know your good God brother, Satsvarupa, will always help you in this connection. Regarding your $2,000, which you promised to send me within 3 weeks, I beg to thank you for this. Actually, A brahmachari should contribute whatever he has got to Krishna through the spiritual master. The spiritual master does not accept anything for his personal use, but he employs everything for Krishna's service. Therefore, the spiritual master is accepted in the renounced order of life. So far as householders are concerned, they may contribute at least half of their income to Krishna. Then life is sublime. After all, everything belongs to Krishna, and the sooner we return whatever we have got to Krishna, the better it is. That is our normal life. Regarding your stocks, you can keep them for yourself for the time being, and if need be, I may ask you to deliver them in the future. So I had some stocks, shares, which I received mainly as gifts in my youth. And so Srila Prabhupada didn't want me to give those to him, so I kept them, and in the end, I cashed them to buy my ticket and help other devotees get their tickets to come to India when Srila Prabhupada wanted to return to India and begin his activities there with some disciples from America. So, yeah. And in a way, the letter is very relevant to Vyasa Puja, because during Vyasa Puja, we offer so much to the Guru, to Srila Prabhupada. But as he said, he doesn't accept anything for himself, but he passes it on to Krishna through parampara. So whatever knowledge we get from the Guru, from Srila Prabhupada, comes from Krishna through disciplic succession, and whatever service we offer to Krishna goes through the Guru, through disciplic succession to Krishna. So coming back to this wonderful purport. One can achieve the seed of bhakti lata, devotional service, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. The duty of the Guru is to find the means according to the time, the circumstances, and the candidate by which one can be induced to render devotional service, which Krishna accepts from a candidate who wants to be successful in going back home, back to Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada, instructed us and engaged us in service in such a way that Krishna would be pleased to accept our service. This makes it easier for the candidate to reach the ultimate destination. The Acharya's duty, therefore, is to find the means by which devotees may render devotional service according to references from Shastra. Rupa Goswami, for example, in order to help subsequent devotees, published such devotional books as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Thus, it is the duty of the Acharya to publish books that will help future candidates take up the method of service and become eligible to return home back to Godhead by the mercy of the Lord. And certainly Srila Prabhupada left us immense literature as a true acharya. Yeah, it is the duty of the acharya to publish books that will help future candidates take up the method of service and become eligible to return home back to Godhead by the mercy of the Lord. In our Krishna consciousness movement, the same path is being prescribed and followed. The devotees have been advised to refrain from 4 sinful activities: illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, and to chant 16 rounds a day. These are bona fide instructions. Because in the Western countries, constant chanting is not possible, one should not artificially imitate Haridas Thakur, but should follow this method. Krishna will accept a devotee who strictly follows the regulative principles and the method prescribed in the various books and literatures published by the authorities. So this is a significant point. Srila Prabhupada has prescribed that the devotees in ISKCON refrain from 4 sinful activities: illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, and to chant a minimum of 16 rounds a day. These are bona fide instructions. So some people say, and in a way, without considering Srila Prabhupada's special position, what they say could have some validity, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prescribed chanting 1 lakh holy names per day. That means 64 rounds. And that's nice. If one can chant 64 rounds. But Srila Prabhupada has prescribed for us a minimum 16 rounds a day. And he says these are bona fide instructions. And as stated in the verse, the Lord is very merciful to his other devotees, and he accepts this method to help them. And Srila Prabhupada often promised that if we just chant our minimum 16 rounds a day, follow the 4 regulative principles, and do our best to spread Krishna consciousness, at the end of this life, we will go back home, back to Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada has made that promise, and Krishna will uphold that promise. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, Konteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee will never perish. The question may be asked, why does Krishna tell Arjuna to declare it? Why does he not declare it himself? And the answer is that Krishna considers it more important to uphold the word of his devotee than to uphold his own word. Of course, Krishna is most truthful. He is the personification of religious principles. But of all of his qualities, his partiality to his devotees, Bhakta Vatsalata, is considered the best. And therefore, it may happen that to uphold his devotee's word, he will break his own word, but he will never allow his devotee's word to be broken. One example is from the Battle of Kurukshetra, when Duryodhana, who was a very expert diplomat, sort of criticized Bhishma Dev that because of your affection for the Pandavas, you are not fighting to your full capacity, which in a way was a taunt or an insult. And Bhishma Dev, as a Kshatriya, accepted the challenge. He rose to the occasion, accepted the challenge. And he said that you see tomorrow in the fighting, I will fight so valiantly that Arjuna will be in trouble. And either I will kill Krishna's friend Arjuna, or I will force Krishna to break his promise not to take part in the warfare. And so it happened that grandfather Bhishma fought very heroically, and Arjuna was in trouble. And Krishna, although he had promised not to take up weapons or take part in the fighting, but Krishna, in that situation, he picked up a broken chariot wheel as a weapon and rushed towards grandfather Bhishma with that weapon in hand to protect Arjuna. And so he protected his devotee's word, Bhishma Dev's word. He kept Bhishma Dev's promise intact, but he broke his own promise not to take part in the fighting. So Krishna may, in rare circumstances, break his word for the sake of his devotee, but he will never allow his devotee's word to go in vain. So when Srila Prabhupada says that if we just chant 16 rounds a day follow the four regulative principles, and do our best to spread Krishna consciousness. We'll go back home, back to Godhead. Krishna will uphold Srila Prabhupada's word, and Srila Prabhupada's promise to us will not be in vain, for sure. So, the devotees have been advised to refrain from four sinful activities: illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, and to chant 16 rounds a day. These are bona fide instructions. Because in the Western countries constant chanting is not possible, one should not artificially imitate Haridas Thakur, but should follow this method. Krishna will accept a devotee who strictly follows the regulative principles and the method prescribed in the various books and literatures published by the authorities. Now, this question of chanting rounds, how many rounds we must chant, was somewhat intriguing. And so, many years ago, Tamal Krishna Goswami and a few of us wanted to clarify what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's policy regarding numbers of rounds was. And so we went to visit, I think it was His Holiness Tripurari Swami and His Holiness Jagat Guru Swami, who were associating with Srila Sridhar Maharaj, who was, elderly and learned disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Because sometimes we were hearing that, in the Gaudiya month, they would initiate people who chanted 4 rounds. And then sometimes we heard that you had to chant 64 rounds. And sometimes you heard 16 rounds. We heard from Srila Prabhupada that as a householder, he was chanting 16 rounds. Although there were periods when he chanted 64. But, he said in his household life, he would chant 4 rounds before breakfast, 4 rounds before lunch, 4 rounds before dinner, and 4 rounds before sleep. And that way he was always sure to complete his 16 rounds. So what we found out was that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's policy for devotees who had a lot of service was minimum 4 rounds. And for devotees who didn't have much service, or in other words, whose main service was chanting, he prescribed 64 rounds. And for devotees in between, he prescribed 16 rounds. Now, obviously, Srila Prabhupada couldn't have, different standards for different devotees in ISKCON. There would be complete chaos. So he settled on 16 rounds, which makes sense even in terms of his Guru Maharaj's policies. So, thus the devotees have been advised to refrain from 4 sinful activities: illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, and to chant 16 rounds a day. These are bona fide instructions. Because in the Western countries, constant chanting is not possible, one should not artificially imitate Haridas Thakur, but should follow this method. Krishna will accept a devotee who strictly follows the regulative principles and the method prescribed in the various books and literatures published by authorities. The Acharya gives the suitable method, again considering time, place, and candidate. The Acharya gives the suitable method for crossing the ocean of nescience by accepting the boat of the Lord's lotus feet. And if this method is strictly followed, the followers will ultimately reach the destination by the grace of the Lord. This method is Acharya Sampradaya. This method is called Acharya Sampradaya. It is therefore said, Sampradaya Vihinaye Mantraste Nishphalamatav, Padma Purana. The Acharya Sampradaya is strictly bona fide. Therefore, one must accept the Acharya Sampradaya. Otherwise, one's endeavor will be futile. Srila Narottam Das Thakur therefore sings, Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas, Janame Janami Hai E Abhilas. One must worship the lotus feet of the Acharya and live within the society of devotees. See, Tandera Charana Sevi, serve the lotus feet of the Acharyas, and Bhakta Sanivas, and live in the company of devotees. Then one's endeavor to cross over nescience will surely be successful. And there's a little bit from the previous verse and purport, which is relevant. In fact, the previous verse and the verse I read today have a lot in common. So the translation of the previous verse, O lotus-eyed Lord, by concentrating one's meditation on your lotus feet, which are the reservoir of all existence, and by accepting those lotus feet as the boat by which to cross the ocean of nescience, one follows in the footsteps of Mahajans, great saints, sages, and devotees. By this simple process, one can cross the ocean of nescience as easily as one steps over the hoof print of a calf. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada quotes a verse that runs parallel to this verse, which is 10:2:30. And we used to sing this verse every morning in the Boston Temple for a while. And it's beautiful. The Sanskrit is beautiful and the meaning is beautiful. So I will sing it in the tune that we used to sing in the old Boston Temple. Samasritaye para palavapavam Mahat padam punyaya murare Bhavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yadvi padam natesham samasritaye param palavapavam madpadam punyaya murare Pavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yadvi padam natesham. So the translation is, for one who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the demon Mura, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoof print. Although there's danger at every step, the devotee crosses right over it. And in the verse, one of the words, compound words, is Mahat Kritena. By that action, which is the most powerful original existence, or which is executed by Mahajans. Because Mahat can mean like the greatest, the most powerful, or Mahat can also refer to Mahatmas, Mahajans. And at the end of the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, in regard to the word Mahat Kritena, it is also significant that the process shown by great devotees is not exclusively for them, but is also for others, which is the same point in the next verse, which was the verse that we discussed, that the acharyas cross the ocean, but they leave the method by which they cross behind as well, so others can also cross. In regard to the word Mahat Kritena, it is also significant that the process shown by great devotees is not exclusively for them, but is also for others. If things are made easy, this affords facility for the person who has made them easy, and also for others who follow the same principles. The process recommended in this verse for crossing the ocean of nescience is easy not only for the devotee, but also for the common persons who follow the devotee. Mahajanayena gata sapanta. Hare Krishna. So, it was a great honor and privilege and pleasure to be with you on this auspicious occasion of Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja, and to discuss some of his glories, some of his genius, some of His mercy. Ordinarily, at the end of a class, I would ask for questions or comments, but I don't know if that's possible in this format. What do my hosts advise? What do my hosts advise?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Any devotees have any questions to ask? You can come here. Ask the question here. Any devotees have any questions to ask? Come here. Jai Maharaj, please.
Jai.
Prabhupada.
Jai, Hare Krishna.
Understand one thing you said about socks, that he has so many gifts. Was it socks or socks? Something were not very clear.
Oh yeah, stocks. Well, in they call them stocks, the stock exchange. But in India, I notice they call it more often. They call it shares. But yeah, everywhere they have that stock exchange. At least previously in Bombay, it was on Dalal Street, a big building. So yeah, that was it. I had some stocks. When I was 13 years old, I underwent a Jewish ceremony called bar mitzvah. And for my bar mitzvah, many of the elders, they gave me stocks as a bar mitzvah gift, and I had all those. And so yeah, when it was time to go to India, I wanted to cash in those stocks. My father wasn't very happy about it. I had to engage him to do it for me. I mean, I had no means to do it myself. But eventually he did. And as I mentioned, that enabled me and some of the other devotees to come to India.
Thank you, Maharaj. And also, the first time I heard the meaning of your name, I always thought, because clean you got Giriraj, clean Iton, you got Giriraj because of clean. But today you explain the meaning to Giriraj.
Yeah, the Grand Teton Mountains is Grand Teton National Park. But don't get me puffed up again about my name. I want to try to stay humble. But yeah. Thank you. Nice to see you, Devotees.
We are waiting for you.
Yeah, I mean, the Juhu book is ready. I mean, it's ready to be printed, and that was the whole plan. I would come to India by October and launch the book. And now with the coronavirus pandemic, I guess we'll just have to see what happens. But yeah,
Still there is time. October is 2 months away.
There is time. There is time. Thank you, Devakinandan Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, we also have to proceed with the Vyasa Puja celebration. Now, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada lecture we are going to listen, and then other program will start. And also, on behalf of entire ISKCON Juhu management, His Grace Bhima Prabhu, His Grace Devakinandan Prabhu, and His Grace Brajahari Prabhu, I'd like to thank you very much for joining with us today. I'm very well know that you have so many lectures throughout the day, and you are on marathon of lectures. And thank you very much, Maharaj, for choosing to spend the time with us. And once again, thank you very much, Maharaj.
Yes, a pleasure. Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to your service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. So I'll let you continue.